Hello World Wide Web, I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair, and yes, I'm finally going to review It, which has a title that'll potentially make for some very confusing sentences, but either way I'm talking about Stephen King's It, and specifically the 90s film adaptation of it. Oh, it's not necessarily a movie, but a miniseries. A miniseries that was a whole 2 episodes long, but hey, how else are you gonna make a movie that's over 3 hours in length without looking completely insane? So what's It about? A group of kids from Maine are tormented by Pennywise the clown, and 30 years later the torment begins anew. Thus they have to come back together to defeat it once and for all. Somehow this takes them over 3 hours, but hey, Tim Curry. And unfortunately I haven't had the opportunity to read the novel yet. But on the plus side, that does mean I'll be able to judge the screenplay on how good of a screenplay it is, and not just how well it does or does not represent the source material. But anyway, let's take a look at It. See, I told you that was going to get weird. Well, it starts out innocently enough, just some spooky music and old photographs before the story begins proper on a bright and stormy day. Everything seems fine, but if you pay attention, you know something's up. After all, this little girl's mother wants her in to avoid the rain, yet how is she supposed to dry her laundry if she's hanging it out during a storm? Hi. That and we've got clowns hiding the sheets. Pennywise, famously portrayed by Tim Curry, who is said to have played the character less seriously than the novel depicted it, but either way, this little girl doesn't make it past the opening just the same. During the police investigation later, we see the only actual investigation going on is being done by the librarian, Mike Hanlon, played by Tim Reed. As such, while the cops are telling him to go home and keep his mouth shut, he's busy discovering a clue.
May 28th. Another killing today. But this time there was something more. Something that makes my skin crawl.
Because, you know, children being murdered left and right in Derry, Maine is fucking Tuesday. But littering? What is this world coming to? Obviously, it was the content of the mysterious picture that caught Mike's attention, so he calls up his old friends from childhood about it, starting with Bill Denbrough, world-famous author, played by Richard Thomas. That is until he realizes who this is on the phone, at which point he jumps into a flashback to when he was 12 and being played by Jonathan Brandis. Seems he had a little brother, Georgie, played by Tony Dakota, and they made a paper boat together. However, Bill was sick, so Georgie went out into the rain to play by himself. Well, almost by himself.
Hi, Georgie. Aren't you going to say hello?
I was thinking of something more along the lines of along with a follow-up question about the frequency of amphibians trained in martial arts in the area. Georgie's line of questioning, after getting over the not talking to strangers stuff, is about Pennywise's offering of balloons.
Do they float?
Oh, yes. They float, Georgie. They float.
They're fucking balloons. What the hell kind of a question is that? Hey, Georgie, we got tons of money down here. Can I buy stuff with it? No, Georgie, it's Bitcoin. The promise of hovering holders of helium is enough to get Georgie to trust it for the rest of his life. So let's hop right to the funeral, which everyone has turned out for, including Seth Green, playing the role of Richie. He's not important yet, though. Georgie still is. I'm not entirely certain how that's supposed to be scary. Unless I was mistaken all this time and Harry Potter really was a horror series. The suddenly bleeding photo album, on the other hand, that's kinda fucked up. However, what's even more puzzling is when the kids' parents come in and pay no mind to the blood whatsoever. In fact, it's as if they don't even notice it. Thus, the flashback is finally over and Bill decides he must go back to Maine at once. Which his wife, Audra, played by Olivia Hussey, doesn't quite agree with, but fuck it, he's got places to be, and we've got more characters to introduce, such as Ben Hanscom here, world-famous architect, played by John Ritter. Everything is going swell for him. That is, until he gets a call.
Hello? Hey, Stack. It's me, Mike.
You're dead, fat boy.
It's payback time, piggy. Resulting in yet another flashback. Quite a bit more violently this time around. Seems that Ben here, as a kid, used to live in Houston, Texas, and was played by Brandon Crane. He's quite the bookworm, which means the local gang of bullies, led by Henry Bowers, played by Jared Blancard, hate him.
You will stay for 1 hour after school every day this week.
My father will tan my hide.
You should have thought of that before you picked on Ben. Now, report to the principal's office.
You're dead, fat boy.
If you hadn't been so fat and smart, I wouldn't have made fun of you for being fat and smart. It's your fault, asshole! Not sure how long Ben's walk home is, but it seems Henry is waiting for him outside school anyway. This culminates in the gang taking the high road and getting ready to carve some notes for later into the kid's gut. But fortunately, he's able to break out of here and escape, making their taunts about his physical fitness seem rather stupid considering he's easily able to outpace all three of them and fit snugly in a drainpipe to evade their pursuit. This explains how he ran into Bill and became fast friends, along with Eddie, played by Adam Farizel. Thus, they all plan on building a dam. First things first, though, Ben's gotta write a poem for a lady at school, and then run off alone into the woods for his own turn at getting freaked the fuck out.
Daddy?
That's my home now, son! You want a balloon, Ben?
Gotta say, the ever-present lurking evil doesn't exactly know how to work on the whole subtlety angle. I mean, sure, show up as the kid's father, standing on top of water, and then phase some balloons in out of nowhere. I'm pretty sure at this point he's gonna figure something's up. Because no surprise here, this is Pennywise. And after the clown's shtick doesn't work, he goes for an even less appealing angle.
They all float, and when you're down here with me, fat boy, you float too.
I must say, I have seen less freaky ways to advertise Dead Sea tourism. Thus, back on the random phone call plot, seems one came for Beverly Marsh, world-famous businesswoman played by Annette O'Toole, but she can't take it right now, instead having to get another call after going home, and immediately decide to fly back to Maine without so much as a flashback, something her boyfriend/business partner very much disagrees with.
He's an old dear friend. I have to...
Shut up. That's what you have to do, just shut up!
Well, thanks for making the decision to leave your ass behind so much easier.
If you ever come near me again, I will kill you. Do you understand? I will kill you.
Now, that's what I like to see in a relationship. Real honest-to-God commitment. So she gets the first taxi she can and heads straight to the airport. Oh, wait, that's right, gotta have a flashback here, showing that as a kid, Beverly was played by Emily Perkins and lived with an abusive father.
You get right the hell back here, Bevy! Or before I got whip the skin off of you!
Damn, she got off the front porch. She's not in the house. It's not domestic abuse. It's just not as fun. Have no fear, though. Ben is here to comfort the lady and bring her back to the ever-growing circle of friends, now including Seth Green and Stanley Uris, played by Ben Heller. Richie goes over Stan's character traits for me.
This is Stan the Man Uris. Stanley's a Jew, which means he's really smart and says oil on it.
Okay. I know there's an obvious joke to make here, but be honest. Will I be demonetized if I put a frog in there? Yes, they're also all supposed to be the same age. That age being 12. No idea how they thought Seth Green would pass for 12, but the point is it's time for Beverly's obligatory freakout scene. Well, to be honest, you couldn't have asked for a more convenient place in your house to have a sudden gore explosion. Similarly to Bill's experience, Beverly asks her father for help, but it's as if he doesn't even notice the big fucking pool of blood right in front of his face. No bother, she's going to Maine now, along with Eddie, who, as an adult, is a world-famous railroad owner, played by Dennis Christopher. As he flashes back to his childhood, we see them watching movies and dumping their snacks on the bully seated conveniently below them. They have such fun torturing people. It's almost a shame that Eddie's mother is ridiculously protective and doesn't want him out running around and socializing. Hell, showering with the other kids in school is too much, according to her.
You take phys ed, you sweat. You take a shower, got it?
What if I promised to only ever do yoga in a walk-in freezer? Obviously, at this point, watching the kid walk in all alone doing a mundane task, yeah, his scare is coming. In the form of wasting water. Or the water getting crazy hot. Or yeah, the showerhead's keeping him from escaping. That's pretty freaky too. And then, of course, there's this.
Here I am, Wheezy.
It's not so much transforming the floor via claymation that's freaky to me, but having stared up from the drain in the first place. So Pennywise pulls out the sharp and scary smile to scar this kid for life. And then we move on to the introductions to the other important characters. Richie, world-famous comedian, played by Harry Anderson. After one of his live shows is finished, he gets a call from Mike, and like clockwork, boom, another flashback. Seems back when he was Seth Green, Richie got in a little trouble after a fight with the bullies.
Tozer!
Not for fighting in school or making a mess, really, but specifically for spilling the principal's food, because if there is one thing that Stephen King excels at, it's writing believable characters and situations. Thus, the principal orders the kid to go get the mop and clean this mess up. Said mop is actually way in the basement for some reason, making this punishment far harsher than it needed to be. It only gets worse, though, when suddenly Richie is attacked by the Wolfman! Haha, just kidding. Wolfmen aren't real, it's Pennywise the Clown. Okay, that's another trauma taken care of, so let's actually bother to cover how the hell Mike has any connection with these kids, considering he's not in any of their memories thus far. It all started back in 1960, when Mike had just moved to Maine and was being played by Marlon Taylor. He's obsessed with history, and gives a presentation on the town's own mysterious past.
Maybe the biggest mystery is how 253 settlers just disappeared without a trace.
Thank you, Michael.
And it's gotta be hard for teachers in movies when you're trying to introduce a new student, he turns out to be the exposition dump for the film, and it's like, ah, boy, this again. Mother of twists, the group of bullies happens to be assholes to Mike as well. This results in him fleeing for his life, and wouldn't you know it, running right into the previously established big group of friends. Thus they band together to fight the rapscallions off with the power of rock! Classic rock. With that, they manage to get the bullies to leave, only having to suffer minor injuries and threats upon their lives. No bother, now the gang is complete. With that, Mike can open his big book of exposition and show that Pennywise is a bit common of a character in the history of Derry, Maine. This is probably because his supernatural ass can even project his will through the Polaroids.
I'll kill you all! I'll drive you crazy, and I'll kill you all!
Ah, so you're going for a Lovecraftian angle here. I get it. Does explain why I can't figure out what in the fuck you're trying to accomplish. That was Mike's foray into the supernatural, though, so with that done, it's time to get around to introducing the last of the bunch, Stanley, whom, all grown up, is played by Richard Mazur. But one quick phone call from Mike later, and suddenly he's having a flashback where we see the gang has banded together in the hopes of destroying it once and for all. After finding out that Beverly is the best shot of all of them by far, it's decided that 2 silver projectiles should be more than enough to extinguish this eternal evil force. With that, they head into the sewers to defeat it. Unfortunately, the bullies also follow them into the sewers because, as we know, America's pastime in the early 60s is childhood murder.
I want you to think about every rock you threw and everything you said. I want you to think about that before you die.
You see, Stan, if you hadn't been so cruel as to fight back when I tried to kill you earlier, I wouldn't have to kill you now. While Stanley's friends are less than useful at remembering their buddy got dragged off down a dark corridor, it is at least doing a good job of keeping him safe, showing up in the nick of time to kill the fuck out of the gang of bullies. Spare Henry, he just goes instantly gray and out of his mind. And may or may not have a future frontlining K-pop acts, but never mind that. After everyone gets back together, Stan is first in line to be grabbed by Pennywise, and with one villain rant for the road, it prepares to eat the little bastard. But what's this? It didn't plan on the small group of morsels fighting back. Thus, with a crack in the skull, the clown monster slips back down the drain.
We gotta go after it.
No, it's dead.
We have to make sure.
It sounded like it was dying.
What if it did?
It doesn't seem dead. Nonsense, it'll be stone dead in a minute. With that, they figure their work here is done. However, if it is in fact not, and the creature still lives, they make a promise to each other that no matter what, they will come back here and finish it off once and for all. Easy enough promise to make, but it seems Stan wasn't quite prepared for the news of it being back, so not wanting to go off and get himself killed, he just kills his fucking self. I guess it was more to avoid the horrors of travel than anything. To be overly critical, I am a critic, but aren't suicide notes usually a little more specific? Either way, everyone else actually works on getting down to Derry and meeting up with Mike. Also, once they step foot in Maine, they don't even have to meet the guy in order to find out Pennywise is very much still alive and fucking with them constantly.
Yeah, Mike Hanlon, that I had to go, that I had to get cleaned up. Hell it.
Again, not necessarily doing much to kill or trick them, just being the biggest supernatural jackass it can be. But that's no reason to let it bring you down, especially when you have old friends, an old bike, and an old song to keep you company. And fuck, I feel old. Am I the only one here thinking, stop fooling around before you break your damn hip? Their happy fun time is interrupted anyway, by a horrifying misprint resulting in an extra ace of spades! Or Pennywise on the back of the cards, could be that too. Nevertheless, through the nostalgia, psychotic episodes, and constant torment at the gloved hands of an ancient demon, they finally reach their meeting point, a Chinese restaurant. Well, almost anyway. No one knows where the hell Stan is, but that's no reason to stop them from getting right down to business and conquering the evil once and for all. However, some good-ass spicy generals, so... Fuck, man, can't argue with that. They do eventually get down to brass tacks, talking about how weird it is that they completely forgot about the horrors of their childhood until the one guy in their group who didn't move away to become world famous happened to call them up. Speaking of being contacted out of the blue, wouldn't you know it, Henry Bowers is still alive and kicking, institutionalized, and being played by Michael Cole. He's also still being tormented by Pennywise, despite being nowhere near Derry.
You gotta go back and finish the job. You gotta go back to Derry and kill them all.
Why did you even have to wait for them to go back to Derry if you could just leave willy-nilly like this? Don't ask questions, Henry! Though I suppose it's just that Pennywise can be everywhere, all at once, like an omnipresent psychopathic shithead, turning all the gang's fortune cookies into horrible little surprises to remind them all to go see their cardiologists. Well, almost all of them, as the gang heads back to the library together before they learn the sad news that Stanley didn't make it because he's a little too dead this morning. If that's not a big enough hint, we've always got this to fall back on. No, I'm honestly surprised he recognized him so quickly. I mean, yeah, he's dead, and you know Stan is dead, but he hasn't seen Stan in a few decades. Shouldn't his mental image of the guy be a little inaccurate? Effectively, this is the formula for a while now. Continuous, non-stop flashbacks, the occasional scare from Pennywise, and things progressing the plot very, very slowly. Like us finding out that Pennywise is helping Henry escape the asylum by slipping him a knife. And then foregoing it completely to just fucking attack the guard itself in the most terrifying form imaginable. A pug! Or maybe a Rottweiler. It's an incredibly cute Rottweiler. Oh, does Pennywise want a peanut butter cookie? While Henry escapes, the rest of the gang goes over each other's various flashbacks in an attempt to figure out more ways to explain what in the hell it even is. The real breakthrough, though, comes from Beverly, who remembers how despite the weird happenings in town, the adults did nothing. Just like one time when she was being harassed by the local gang.
He looked so concerned. I thought he was going to help me, but I couldn't believe it. He just turned around and went inside.
So, the town's full of assholes. I mean, even if they do know that there's something supernatural going on and they're just pretending not to, how does that explain that situation? Oh, my, that young lady's being attacked. I'd better... come to think of it, maybe those are ghost greasers. I better not get involved. But they're not the only ones trying to piece together whatever the fuck this story is. Bill's wife, Audra, has followed him to Maine in an attempt to remain plot relevant.
Don't you want your balloon first, Miss Denborough? Don't you want it? Don't you want it?
And instead just provides the best damn clip you could ask for to inspire a Pennywise porn parody. You know, fuck it, that's just the world we live in. On that note, it almost seems like Ben and Beverly are finally getting together. However...
Kiss me, fat boy!
I take it back, that's the best clip to inspire said parody. You know, as long as it's the kind of porn that Creepy keeps sending me. However, it turns out Pennywise doesn't love Ben. This was all just a distraction so that Henry can corner Mike and stab the fuck out of him! Unfortunately for him, he's in a horror movie and therefore incredibly stupid, stabbing the fuck out of himself instead. This means the group suffers another loss. Loss of presence this time, as Mike is alive, but not in any condition to go on some adventure to defeat an eternal evil. Oh well, at least Beverly finally gets a chance to confess to Ben. Again.
When I was young, I thought it was Bill, but it was you, wasn't it?
Damn it, Bev, is that you in there? Is that the clown? I don't know what the hell is going on. How am I supposed to know?
Me.
Well, as we all know, it is very hard to move on once you've been seduced by Tim Curry. In case you were wondering, though, these 3 hours of talking about how they made a pact to come back and destroy it, well, it was all leading up to them heading back down into the sewers to destroy it. Minus Stan and Mike, of course, but it's cool, they remembered the slingshot and silver from 30 years ago, and since that didn't work before, it's bound to work now. That is, if they all stick together. Then Bill realizes his wife followed him to Maine and has already been captured by it.
It's got her. I can see you're moving the trick or something. Bill, wait, damn it!
It's till death do you part. If they're dead, you can part. It's okay. He's fine anyway. Pennywise is nothing if not long, drawn out, and not particularly dangerous to the main cast of characters. Therefore, it just taunts them through the picture-in-picture effect before they find the secret door to its lair. Which is about hobbit size, but that's not the point. They finally see the true visage of the nightmare that has haunted them all their lives. Big fucking spider. This is the part of the story where people are like, in the book, it was explained in a lot more of a logical manner, and I'm just there like, it's Stephen King. This terrible turn of events can only mean one thing. It's time for more flashbacks. With that in mind, Eddie tries to fight it off with his inhaler, and is rightly killed for being a complete fucking moron. The silver projectiles at least work, probably because they're hard as fuck and Beverly attacked its weak point for massive damage. But the point of it all is the demon is wounded and tries to escape. There's only one thing to do now. Just push the motherfucker over and kick the shit out of it! Pennywise has been tormenting this region for the last 200 years, but it turns out they could be defeated by a small group of mentally scarred people in midlife crises. Oh, well, I guess it's just that in the last 2 centuries, no one ever thought to maybe just punch the bitch. The point is, happy ending! It is dead. The survivors survived, and Audra is also alive, but unresponsive. Don't worry, though. Bill has a plan. Not yielding to stop signs. Only making her uncomfortable can save her now. I can just flip her over and forego the lube. Or bike straight into traffic, I guess. That'll get the adrenaline pumping. So don't worry about all those friends and children who got fucking killed. Bill and Audra are gonna be okay. The end. And it's kind of hard to set up sequel bait to the story. What are they gonna do? Come back 30 more years later at 72 years old? Only 2 of them are still alive and they throw their backs out kicking the thing? Oh well. Anyway, that was it. And it is pretty well all over the goddamn place. But certainly entertaining. If you're looking for things to complain about in this miniseries, there's more than enough stuff that comes up in the 3-hour running time to find questionable. However, for every eye-rolling or eyebrow-raising moment, there's at least 5 points that actually are done really well. First and foremost, the characters are interesting and entertaining. The fact that practically everyone just so happened to strike it big after leaving Maine was more than a little weird, but it beats the hell out of finding out most of them ended up working at Walmart stocking shelves. The movie has enough horror, it doesn't need to be that depressing. The big selling point, of course, is Tim Curry's performance as Pennywise the Clown. I know it's said in the novel Pennywise was not nearly as jovial a character, but this brings to a head the one way clown horror really works. Having a bright and colorful character that can horrify you just the same makes for a great contrast, as opposed to a dark, grim character who gets darker occasionally. Overall, it is certainly an experience. The whole thing is very, very long, and of course it was originally broken into multiple parts, and it can still leave you scratching your head and suffering many a WTF moment towards the climax, but for being so drawn out, it does keep it very entertaining. Not perfect, and certainly not something that everyone will find worthy of watching the whole 3 hours of, but unquestionably entertaining, coming in at 4 Floaty McFloatface brand of floating balloons out of 5. And with that, the March of the Clowns is finally over. You probably could have guessed by the fact that it's April, but... Thank you all for watching. I've been Dr. Shado. And remember, evil, demonic, clown, demon spiders are no match for a good old-fashioned ass-whooping.